Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, a weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. What else is there to say? Savage is on Tuesday. This is going to set the tone for all of the difficult content for the remainder of Dawntrail. Although I got to admit, it's really Eden Ultimate in 7.1 that I'm worried about. After DSR on top, worried is the right word. I'm sure it'll be fine. We're so doomed. So doomed. Other than that, I'm just going to be posting a bunch of Savage content this week. First clears, thoughts videos, state of the realm. It's literally going to be an entirely Savage themed week. So hopefully you're looking forward to that. If not, sorry, I don't know what else to say. After that, I can start working on the Versus series as well. I kind of slacked on the job thoughts videos since we're getting a slew of job changes right now. Focused mostly on just the Fizz range. Thought about doing the Monk one, and honestly, I probably could. But I'm going to be planning out the Versus series so we can get that out. Probably start getting them out before August is over. Have them all out before the end of September. At least that's what my current plan is. As for announcements, a couple of things. One, in case you missed it, I am going to TwitchCon this coming September. Kind of a last-minute decision. I wasn't really going to go, but honestly, with the way I've been in the past year and a half, in fact, the last several years, I haven't done a lot of traveling at all. I figured it was about time that I made something a little bit more regular, try to get out to more events, even if I'm not necessarily going to improve my business. I kind of don't do that when I go to events. You know what I mean? You can do a little bit of networking, just a teensy bit, but I don't like going with the agenda of, I guess, oh, I'm going to do this for my business and that. Versus, I'll just meet a bunch of cool people, and if something cool happens, great. Just kind of going with the flow, you know what I mean? I like that a lot better. That's just more me. Maybe it's less productive, but it's more me. What else was there going to be? There's something else I started doing. So one of my friends on Twitch, she does these date night things with her friends. And she came into my stream and told me that I should do it. So her and I actually did one this last Friday, where it's just casual conversation, just getting to know each other. Chat gets to know us a lot better. And it was a lot of fun. I've gotten a lot of DMs from other people who are actually interested in doing things like that as well. So while I'm not going to be posting any of that here, that's something that you may hear me occasionally make announcements for in the future, because it's just kind of a basic human-to-human interaction thing, and it seems like a lot of people really valued that. The more casual, laid-back, have a couple of drinks, and just shoot the shit kind of conversation that people can just kind of throw in their ears and just relax to. No arguing, no anything fancy, but just a good time. I had a good time. She had a good time, and I've got a couple of others planned over the next probably month or so. I've got at least 2 others of those planned already, so we'll see what happens. Anyway, with that, let's get on to the Q&A. Thanks to the sponsors over on Patreon for supporting. They don't have to support. Everything on my channel is free. I don't money lock anything. But if you enjoy, consider supporting. But if not, just enjoy this video, because that is supporting. Anyway, let's get on to it. All right, I had to scroll down a little bit for the first question. This is one of the few times I haven't actually looked ahead, so I don't know how many questions there actually are. So I have no idea how long this video will be. But I can tell you the first question doesn't have a hello. Maybe that's an omen. I've been having one of those. You ever wake up in the morning and you're just you've instantly decided the day is terrible? Nothing's happened. You don't think anything's gonna happen. There's no indication that it's gonna, but you just wake up and something in your soul tells you today's a terrible day. I should just go back to that. That was today for me. For no reason. I just woke up and was like, oh. It seems Aloha Agree is already getting his voice in. And you know what? This must have been what I felt. This must have been it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. Do you think we need a roulette or similar function for non-DF content, such as deliberate regine, variants, etc.? And do you think we could ever have Unreal dungeons where old content gets synced up? They seem to be amenable to the idea of doing more types of Unreal content. I know they were specifically asked about Coil, for example, but I don't think they're going to actually go through with it. I'm hesitant because they talk about how it essentially requires the same amount of QA as the average dungeon or raid, because they have to make sure that it's, correctly tuned for whatever reason, not for whatever reason, but they have to make sure that it's actually accurate. And it's also only around for a limited time. It doesn't stay, which I also think is a mistake. I think they should at least keep it the entire expansion since they're all synced to the same item level. So for the Unreal, could they? Absolutely. Have they said they might? Yes. Do I think they actually will? No. As for a roulette or similar function for non-DF content, I think they do need to revisit that somehow. Variant dungeons, I've said, should just have a roulette, because I would much prefer having another roulette that utilizes these dungeons that they went above and beyond on, more than their average dungeon. And they just sit there unless somebody wants them to, or like you do the 12 paths and you never do them again. I don't know. Like, I understand that the inner workings of them is a little different because they're kind of choose your own adventure, but like I just would prefer it. Like, I think Final Fantasy XIV has always been at its best when it utilizes all of its content throughout all of its history to give you things to just shake things up. It's why people really like the old Zodiac and Anima relics, is because they asked you to do content that was kind of irrelevant in a sense, and it gave that content value. Now, of course, that's a matter of argument whether or not that's a good idea, especially with the volume of them you have to do. But I think Bosia is a pretty level idea where they had like the Alliance raid steps and some of the open world fate steps where you could choose which way to go with it. And I would like to see them do stuff like that with Variant to get it to be relevant, just for the sake that it has some sort of value attached to it. Delubrim's a bit tougher because it has all the stipulations and rules to it, but I'd like to believe the team is capable of a solution for that. So my answer is yes, more accessibility for things that aren't as popular. There's no reason to argue against it. You know, it only helps the game. Doesn't hurt. Hashtag Mondays with Mrhappy. Hey, Haps and crew. Hi. Hopping on to the logs question. I don't even remember what that question was from last week. My gripe with logs is for a while, instead of comparing your clears to people at the same item level, it compares you to everyone, aka people with BIS. Yeah, that's because it's actually a lot of... I don't know that you can... So here's the thing. You can technically scrape item level from the lodestone, but if I recall correctly, the way that it actually updates the data makes it hard to remain accurate. And also, it can only scrape whatever the last job you were on is, not all of your jobs and all of your item levels. I think that was the key problem with it. Otherwise, everyone would need to manually put in their item level. And let's be honest, I can't even get my party finders to read the description of the party finder they joined. Do you think they're all going to go put their item levels in the logs? No. So I think it has a lot to do with the back-end systems for Final Fantasy XIV, making it not easy without player intervention. And thus, it's unlikely to happen unless the dev team makes a conscious decision to make that information more available, and I don't see them doing that. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hello. Hi. And another hello for anyone who forgets. You were smart because we need that hello. Not sure if you would know, but a quick question about Bard's... Oh, I don't. I'm useless when it comes to that. Is there any way to actually turn off the effects? So I don't know, but if you haven't found it, and I can't imagine it's that complicated to find the answers, probably no. Hashtag Happy Mondays with Mr. Hey, hi, you doing all right? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. When doing ultimates, how come it's recommended to get BIS for that level instead of letting your higher level gear sink down? So this actually depends on how high of a level the synced gear is. There is gear that eventually has really good stats, so when we sink it down, it is better than wearing BIS of that level. For most jobs, tanks and healers are usually the other benefactor, but the answer to your question is why tanks and healers will regularly wear BIS for whatever ultimate they're doing. Materia melds don't work when you sink down, and that is a big thing, because materia melds are a lot of power, especially the tanks and healers who very regularly will grab tons of direct hit melds. Not to mention, if you're a job that requires a certain skill speed or spell speed to function at your best capacity, some jobs are going to require melds to do that, and don't want to have to worry about what their synced down skill speed is from the gear that's of a higher tier. So there's a lot of facets that go in, but for the most part, people will be looking at actually getting access to the materia melds when they sink down, which is the fact that that doesn't work is already just a completely different discussion, but that's how it works now. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey, Happy, hope you're doing well. Same for you. And hello. As someone who does a ton of hunts, the one thing that continuously frustrates so many people, myself included, who are working on achievements are early pullers. This is specifically an S-rank issue for the current expansion ones. I mean, it's an issue for every expansion. It's gotten so bad that you can literally be camping a city Aetheryte waiting for an S-rank ping on Discord and whatever and still not make it in time. Then start doing hunts till early Endwalker. I have to imagine that this has basically been an issue forever. It's not an issue on expansion launch. It's an issue literally all the time. In my, it's an easy solution in my eyes, it's to put a 5-minute invuln timer on the S-ranks when they first spawn. So you could do that, and there's really no argument against that. But there's one brutal truth about S-ranks. Nobody's entitled to them. Like, I think it's just kind of a dick move to, like, do an early pull or any of that. But it's also literally not anyone's responsibility. Nobody owns the S-ranks, even the person who spawns it. there's literally, you can't, like, there's just no way to, like, say that, oh, we should all, especially when you're just camping the city Aetheryte and trying to, you know, mooch off somebody's hard work. Like, I get it. I do that too. But when I miss the S rank, I go, damn. And then I move on because I understand it's not my, I didn't contribute. I didn't do anything. Neither did the person who pulled early, but hey, you know what they have that I don't? They've got some diligence, because I could not imagine wanting to be an asshole that frequently. I mean, but yeah, I mean, they could do what you're suggesting. There's no harm in it, really. I just don't think they see this as an issue, because they're not meant for everyone. They're meant to, somebody spawns them and they're there and they're available, and that's the end of it. You know, I don't think they see early pullers, which is a concept that only we have determined is a thing, as a real issue. It's the hard truth. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Good day, Haps. Good day. I just watched your video on the fast guide to leveling. After after running the mentioned duty, I noticed how a major mechanic of the final boss is not there anymore as you kill the boss too quickly. Yeah, welcome to most 24-mans. As there are so many mechanics new players will not see, do you believe there should be an introduction of an item level sync? This is another one of those things where it's kind of hard to argue against, because it's unfortunate that these bosses are essentially being massacred. But it's also old content, and a lot of people are just there to get in and get out. So you also kind of, you're kind of essentially just saying, we need to preserve the experience for one person, maybe two out of the 24 that are there to just outright murder it. I mean, there's usually a handful of people that would be okay if it took a little bit longer, you know, just to make sure the bosses and their mechanics actually play out. There's other suggestions like making certain mechanics boss HP related. So like, for example, you might miss one of the like really basic mechanics, but at 50%, the boss just always does the same thing. Like you could do that with the 24-mans as well. That being said, I just don't see them doing it. I just don't. I think they don't. Again, it's old content that people are just trying to get through as quick as possible. I don't think they see the preserving the image or difficulty of it as an issue at all. I'd be okay with this, but what I think is irrelevant. Hi. Look at that. Put the hi before the hashtag. Now that's a forward thinker. Happy hashtag Mr. Happy Monday happenings. That was tough to say. Did you watch Evo at all? No, dude. I haven't watched Evo in years, and which it sucks because I love Evo. Evo is the esports event. I don't care about League Worlds or the International. Like, I watch those events when I can. But comparatively, Evo moments, hashtag Evo moments, are the greatest gaming moments, in my opinion, in all events. Like, nothing even remotely compares. So, like, I just caught a few, like, glimpses of everything over on social while I was working on some other stuff. But man, like Evo is just, it's every year, especially Tekken. Like the last few years, I want to say like the last like 4 or 5 years, like Tekken just through the roof in terms of presence. And it's so good to watch. I'm also waiting for, you know, what 2-hit KO. I think it's 2X KO or whatever the league one is called, for that to start making appearances there as well. Oh man, that would be so good. Have you played any Dissidia? So funny, I have played the original, I have played Duodecim, but I actually competed in a local tournament for, it was sort of local. Yeah, I mean, it was, I don't think they flew anyone out, but it was in, I think it was in Burbank? No, it wasn't in Burbank, was it? Either way, it was like a Cup Noodle sponsored Dissidia NT tournament. And I gotta say, on LAN, as much as that game gets a really bad reputation for playing it online and for the lack of a real single player mode, playing that game on LAN was a lot of fun. And it was a good time. But no, I haven't played any as of late, and I really hope we get a remaster with a good ad hoc mode of Duodecim in particular. That would be cool. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello. Hi. I started playing just before Endwalker release and slowly did all the MSQ and leveled my crafters and gatherers. That's about all I've done so far. Think about doing the normal and 24-man raids, but I'm not sure where I should start. Should I do them in the order of release, or is there an order you think is best? Order of release. So the big thing is that Coil is not a traditional 8-man raid in a sense that you, there's no like story and hard mode. So if you queue into it, you're queuing into a raid. You're not queuing into like a story mode. You're queuing into what is a Savage equivalent. Now it's way easier because, you know, they didn't have good fight design back then. but you generally unsync coils. You've already done Crystal Tower because you finished the MSQ. And then, yeah, I say just work up from the expansions from there. There's no real reason to do it any other way, but there's also no argument against doing it whichever way you want. I just think that starting with the highest level ones is a bad idea because you have all of your abilities, and then you start removing your abilities as you queue into the lower level stuff. So get the lower level stuff out of the way. And there's a lot of good stories and fun, so take your time with those. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. Heya, hi. Just wondering, unless this has already been asked, probably been asked, but listen, if I didn't like answering the same questions over and over, I wouldn't survive as a content creator. That's true. Do you think positionals should still be in the game or perhaps just reduced to rear positionals? I love positionals. I'm still a big advocate for giving monks 6 positionals back. Never going to happen. I know. But I love it. I still try to do all the positionals on monk. You can't uningrain that from me. I think it adds a bit more engaging gameplay. I think it really showcases skill differential between players. That obviously that's neutered a bit when there, as you mentioned, there's a ton of omnidirectional bosses. There's now a new debuff that takes directional bosses and temporarily makes them omnidirectional. We've seen that in M4, likely to see it in Savage as well. But I'm a huge fan of positionals, and I'm not a fan of constantly removing gameplay elements, so I'm pro positional. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps. Hi. Hope you're doing all right. You too. I really enjoyed your history of raiding video from back in Stormblood. Was curious if you ever thought about doing another covering the history of raiding from then until now. Covering stuff like certain world first controversies and the reintroduction of door bosses, maybe even the community strat wars we saw with things like Ilya, and I'm sorry, Happy Brambles. It's not a bad idea. It's a free content idea. I actually love taking old video ideas and revisiting them years down the line because there's always something new, maybe even like a changed perspective from something that you've done before that you may not have conveyed. I'd have to remember what I even said in that video as well. But yeah, I mean, the answer is yes, because actually there's some pretty major developments in raiding that have happened since then. So I think it's a worthwhile look, to be honest. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Happy. Hi. Dawntrail introduced that new mechanic notification that flashes up in the middle of the screen. This is unfortunately triggering migraines for some players, myself included. Well, that's worth a report on the forums. Do you know a way to alter the intensity of it, move it, or even disable it? No, no, and no. However, you are correct in that Yoshi P said they were retroactively... Oh, you know, no, I think they said that they were retroactively looking to add options for it as well. I know they said they wanted to add it to older content, but I thought they also said that they were looking to add, like, the ability to modify it. There is no way to change it right now. And it's there for a very particular reason, because a lot of people just don't pay attention in fights. But no, I could have swore they said that they had gotten feedback from people when they revealed it saying, or even from Media Tour saying that they wish they could move it or remove it. I think they said they were working on that retroactively. So I'd have to look for the source, but you can't, but you should be able to sometime in the future. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Happy. Hi. Hope you and yours are doing well. The cats are doing swell now, it seems. Since Savage is coming up, I wanted to ask a question regarding raid buffs. I'm a Latam player. I don't know why I said it like that. So I'm living that 250 MS ping life, which essentially forces me to performing single weaves only. Finding on some jobs I would need to leave some button presses out of my buff window if I want to ensure proper buff coordination. I could also say nah and accommodate it so I can burst but misalign the buffs if only slightly. My gut feeling tells me it should be better overall for raid performance to ensure buff coordination. That is correct. So the way buffs work, so it sounds like you're playing Bard, because Bard has 4 double weaves in the first 2 GCDs. So that's what it sounds like to me. No, yeah, you definitely want to prioritize getting the buffs out as quickly as possible, which, again, you shouldn't really have that much issue with it unless you're also playing Fizz Ranged, which does have a lot of buffs to press in between their OGCDs, at least raid-related buffs. Whereas, like, a job like Monk, for example, has Riddle of Fire, Riddle of Wind, Brotherhood, and then they still have to make sure that they don't forget to use that initial Forbidden Chakra to get under the 5 stacks. No, yeah, you want to align your buff windows with what the recommended rotation is as closely as possible. So look at that and then work with that. I'm not going to lie, as much as you never want to double weave, if the difference is buff coordination and buff alignment versus a single double weave every 2 minutes, that clips your GCD, go with the clipped GCD. It's definitely still better to get those buffs out at exactly the time they're supposed to be and mess your GCD up a little bit in order to do that. I'd be hard-pressed to imagine that's not the case, at the very least. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello there, sir. Hello. Have you felt, noticed, imagined any inconsistency with getting hit by mechanics like the drifting hearts in M2 or the grabbers on the first boss and Stray Burrow? Pretty low latency and it feels impossible to tell what an actual trigger range is on them. That is because ping is not a consistent number. You say 90 to 100, but I guarantee you it fluctuates more than that for you on average. So sometimes you could be with 80, sometimes you could be with 110, and sometimes the server tick is just going to look ahead just that slight little bit. So there are, and that's why it's generally recommended to give every sort of projectile like that a wide berth. We saw this a lot with the acid bubbles in Zeramis as well, where people try to squeeze between them, and sometimes they would do it, sometimes they wouldn't. So yeah, kind of the same bit here, and sometimes that just sucks. It's just a matter of getting used to what works for you best. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Happy. Hi. What content do you think is soloable with current gear? So funny thing, I am actually in the process of testing this, and I have seen some things around. So O12 is doable now. The second phase was soloable in the last expansion, but the first phase is soloable now. So now the whole thing is doable. There's something else in Omega that wasn't doable before that I think is doable now, and I actually think there's something, I think there's an encounter in Eden. Is it E2? I think it's E2 that's soloable. I'll have to double check, but yeah, there's a few more. Emerald Weapon, Extreme, Innocence, Titania. Hades is a no. I think that's going to be a no for a long time, because even if you could get past certain bits, like there's like a lot of individual, like you have to do the burst so quick that making it happen. I don't think you can do Hades even with 25% echo right now. Ruby might be doable on a DPS job. Like maybe Red Mage or something with 25% echo and pots. If not now, then later. I think Red Mage might be the first job to be able to do that, because I don't think there's anything you need a tank invuln for in that fight, is there? Not if you can burst one of the ads down, because I think if you don't, then they get really dangerous. The meteors, you'd have to be able to... Yeah, actually, no, the meteors, I'm a little concerned. No, should I? Wouldn't you? Maybe... I guess you would just get all 8 of them and just run in a circle, wouldn't you? Or you would only get 1. Oh, but then you might not be able to survive. I don't know if you can even survive that. That might even be just a hard check. Yeah, Ruby might be. Ruby will need some tests, but I think Diamond is doable with 25% echo. I think it's been done on a tank. I think Emerald as well. Yeah, Innocence Tiny. Who am I forgetting? Emerald, Ruby. Who's 5.3? Who's the Oh, Warrior of Light. Idiot. Oh no, Warrior of Light, you're so screwed. No. I don't see any way that's possible. So yeah, I think there's like 4 extremes and like 2 other Savage fights that are doable. At the very least, that's what's doable. And I'm looking forward to seeing if there's anything else, especially later on with a bit more gear and echo, of course. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hi, Happy. Hi. Endwalker was the first expansion where I tackled extremes and savages, and to make a long story short, despite eventually clearing them, it wasn't a great experience thanks to statics falling apart left, right, and center, and PF being PF. Before I decided I wouldn't raid Dawntrail. However, after playing the new normal raids, I've started to second guess. What would be your advice for someone like myself in this situation? Many thanks in advance. So I'm going to be real with you. A lot of the time, okay, I'm not going to say a lot of the time. I'm going to say there's no way for me to distinguish between statics and PFs being a certain way and the individual asking me being part of the reason that those happened. There's just no way of knowing, especially when you're brand new. It can be really, really hard to kind of break out of your shell and get into the raid scene. You can be in your head about performance. You could just be underperforming and not actually trying to get any better. Or the people around you could be exhibiting like things that make it hard to raid with them. You could just be raiding with the wrong. It's so broad. I can't rule you out as part of the problem, and I can't tell you that part of the problem was somebody. Like, there's no way for me to say there's like one set thing. My only advice in any given situation like this is to do your best and hope everyone else does theirs, because you're the only person that you have control over. So you need to be enjoying your experience and finding some satisfaction and improving yourself, and leave the factors that you cannot control out of the equation of whether or not you're having fun. You can be frustrated about them. You can be mad that they can't clear. You could be upset that statics fall apart. but there has to be some degree of personal gratification that is the focus of why you would participate in that content. Otherwise, other people will dictate your experience. And then it's almost impossible to have fun ever. So that's my number one thing. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Haps, Aloha, and Ivy. I know it's funny. I have all my sneakers over here, and they're kind of uncoordinated. And I thought, like, in the corner of my eye, it looks like I've got, like, some white sneakers, and I've got some, like, dark ones. I thought it was Ivy laying on her side, just like, lounging about for a brief moment. It's like at night when you just think you see something, except it's not night yet, and there's bright lights on everywhere. So, terrible analogy. Have some extra hellos for people who didn't include them. Hello, hi, howdy. See, we've got a couple extras this time. After watching a bit of your early TITI grind and seeing someone with the mountain game, I started to grind myself. That got me thinking about mounts. I was wondering, what is your favorite? Do you have a favorite? I have a video on this. My favorite is not one you see me use very often, the T-Rex from Eureka. That's because I was going through a really hard time in my life at that point. And so when I came back, Eureka was kind of a comforting thing for me to have. So I think very fondly of the T-Rex mount that comes from that, even if it's not like a visual favorite or anything. It's just kind of like when I see that mount, I get a lot of good memories. My favorite that you'll see me use, which I think was number 2 in that video, is the Demi Ozma. Eureka, again, was a really good experience, but Demi Ozma was I guess it indicates a world first achievement, because I was part of the world first group for the Baldessian Arsenal, and that's cool. So it's just a nice little memory on top of the other fond memories I have of Eureka. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hi, Haps. Hi. How you doing? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. Do you know exactly what time Savage Tier starts? Yeah, when the servers come up. 3 a.m. Pacific. That's when they begin. You're not going to be able to farm tomes at all. The servers will come up and Savage will be there immediately. Oh, I see there's no hello before I even start reading it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. Oh, hold on. Let me grab the spare. Yeah. Howdy. If you had this choice to remove the 2-minute meta buff and replace it with something of your own choosing, how would you change it? I'd go back to Shadowbringers. Every 30 seconds is a buff window, and they're a minor buff. There are minor buff windows and major buff windows. Major buff windows can fall on literally any minute. It could be the 0, the 2, the 3, the 6, the 8, just because different buffs have different alignments, and it really changes with every single fight. So I would go back to that, because it means that if you screw up your buff rotation, you can get in on the next buff window. And you're not like completely locked out. Having more buff windows creates less egregious outliers, which means that even with deaths, you have more consistent experiences and you're able to fix your gameplay loop more consistently. There's just all upside. The only downside is that it requires a lot more management from the individual player, which I'm willing to trade to not get such scuffed 2-minute windows. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Mr. Happy. Hi. How would you think the devs should weight energy drain when considering scholars balance? 300. I'm not a scholar major, man. I shouldn't be answering this. Like, I could probably do the math, but then I'd have to compare it to literally everything else. 300 potency a minute less than a single broil cast seems like it's not even worth pressing, but the fact that it's extra damage makes it feel like using ether flow and healing is a waste. No. So here's the thing. In easier content, yes. In harder content, I swear if you're not holding an ether flow for, at the very least, a sacred soil, I'm going to lose it. All right. The Indoms are always really good. The Sacred Soils are really good. And sometimes you just need a Panic Lustrate in especially harder content. I think the balance of it's pretty good, because when you are really, really proficient, you can use those energy drains. When you're in really easy content, you can use those energy drains. When you are trying to be responsible, you are griefing. So weigh your options. I saw another question asking about the early poll debate. I didn't know that was going to be a hot topic today. But since I answered something on it earlier, I'm just letting that person know. I skipped the second question that regarded to it. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hi, Mr. Happy. Hi. Hope you're doing well. You too. First question here, I've been watching through. I'd rather ask questions about your ideas for Time Mage and my fix for Dark Knight's attacks, and to be TBM no longer be attached to your DPS, but I digress to the actual question. When will Yoshi P let us transmute more than 5 materia at a time? Is it already a thing and I'm too unintelligent to figure it out? No, it's not a thing, and I've never even thought. Oh, actually, that's not true. I actually thought about it recently. The real answer is probably never, because that system is old, outdated, and quite frankly, not even very well known. Now, would it be known better if it wasn't such a pain to use? Probably. Could they do this? Yeah, I'd like to imagine. Should they? Yeah, probably, because it's just better instead of just leaving it. I have no argument against this. I guess I just have a low level of confidence they will do something. So maybe we bring it up to Yoshi P next time. Next time I see him, I'll be like, hey, gonna update transmute because it kind of sucks. Please? Hashtag Savage Juiced Mr. Haps on a Monday. Hey, Mr. Haps. Hello. So I know that we're already past the Endwalker Relic weapon, but do you think if they added a trial gauntlet as part of the last step, like what they did in Heavensward, would that have alleviated even a small amount of complaints? Yes. Anything. Aloha. See, he's mad that you brought it up. Look, he's mad. Hey, hey, this isn't about you. Okay? This isn't about you. It would, but here's the thing. I don't think it really addresses the whole expansion's worth of problems. And yeah, now that it's just Poetics, nobody really like cares. Like that's like in terms of future proofing, it's in a fine spot. But it's anything would have been better. For the love of God, anything at all would have been better. So please do better this expansion. Hi, hello, Mr. Happy. See, more highs before the hashtag. Good idea. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. I have a Materia question. I usually just slap on crit Materia since that's what everyone recommends. I was reading over the stats out of curiosity while gearing up my white mage and saw spell speed affects dots and hots. Thinking about slotting in 2 spell speeds into my weapon, since 108 from 2 Materia doesn't seem like an insignificant number. Do you think there would be any merit to doing anything like this? I am not going to give opinions on what I think you should do because the balance very likely has answers. So I'm going to bet the answer is no. Unless you want a specific spell speed for your casts and recasts, slotting it just because it has that side effect, which is not a whole lot, by the way, is unlikely to be a good idea over, you already guessed it correctly, crit, and more crit. Or direct hit. Direct hit is a fantastic meld because damage is damage. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Haps. Hi. I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. Quick question about the content cadence for Dawntrail. I know we get Savage Raids, even patches, Alliance Raids, odds, but do we know when the other stuff is coming? Most of my enjoyment of the expansion comes from doing stuff like Criterion, Deep Dungeon, and Exploration Zones, so any speculative time frame. So, we have some definitive answers. We know for example, the Exploration Zone, the first one is planned for 7.2x. They have hard confirmed that. But I'll give you a better answer. We don't have the exact time frame on most things. What we do have are approximations. However, soon we won't need approximations. Whenever the next live letter is, they have said they will give us a time frame for the entirety of the expansion. Now, that's not going to include every single piece of content. Normally, there's things that are surprises on top of all of that, but it'll give you a solid idea. So if you're willing to wait a little bit longer, you'll have an actual answer without any question of a doubt. All right, so I've had like 5-10 minutes between some of these questions because there's something else that's pulling my attention away. So I'm gonna lightning around the rest just so I can take care of this other thing that I got going on right here. So I apologize because there's actually, I don't think there's that many left, or I think there were 77 comments as a whole, and I've actually skipped quite a few. There was one that's, as a fellow red mage enthusiast, don't worry, I can read the sarcasm. What do I think of Vercure? I'm glad that some job just has like a very like outright wild utility because Vercure is really strong. If you really desperately need it, it's good. It's also a solid downtime tool for giving yourself a dual cast proc while you're waiting for the boss to come back. And even on that utility alone, I appreciate it. I just don't like red mage. Then we have, are you excited for Metaphor? Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Metaphor. There's been a lot of games, man. I really wanted to play a lot of RPGs over the last, I don't know, like 6 months, but there were so many that have come out, and like, it's just even in the past few years that I've missed a lot. I don't want to miss Metaphor because I think it comes out in October, and that should be just enough time for me to play it before 7.1 comes out in very likely November. So I'm excited. I'm excited for that. Let's see. What locations would you like to see for variant Criterion? I couldn't label one down. That's like it's too broad a question. Like, I'm just going to be curious as to what they do. I think that's the best answer that I can give. Let's see. Sorry to pose unrelated questions, but Brad, formerly from Easy Alliance, wanted to ask you to join him on a podcast. Oh, he never heard. Oh, it's probably my Twitter. So if people reach out to me, I apologize to this in advance. When people reach out on Twitter into my message requests, I very rarely read them. That's my bad. Hopefully it's not because the email's wrong, but I will take this call out as a means to check my, in fact, I can check it right now. Let me see, message requests. There's another one in here that's kind of similar, but I see it. Yeah. Good call bringing it here, actually, because I would have never looked. Yeah, I'll give that a response. While the majority of jobs get some form of compressed buttons, healers, specifically shield healers, are just exceedingly overbloated. How can we fix them? I mean, do you want them to have less utility? Most people agree that like you take away some off-global utility on the healers and force them to GCD heal more. That's the answer, most likely. What can I tell a friend to encourage them to get into blind prog? Don't force people. Like, if somebody's really uncomfortable and they really don't want to do it, like, they don't want to disappoint strangers, then go in with them, make the group for them. That's it. Make the group. That way it's like, oh, I've curated all these people. They're well aware. It's not like they're just entering and then they have to like try to get past that wall of telling people like, be the leader they need you to be. Or don't harass them. Don't try to push them if it's really bad. You know what I mean? Like if they're really, really concerned about it. And I think, let's see. I see a hello. And that was it. Okay, there weren't very many left, so I was right. That was 77 comments. I had skipped quite a few, so I think that's all of them. Hopefully I didn't accidentally miss one or one didn't have a hashtag. But that's going to be a wrap for this episode of Mondays with Mrhappy. Next time you see me, I'll be a savage raider. I should be done with the tier by Wednesday at the latest. I sincerely doubt it's going to take longer than that. Regardless of Dawntrail, like design philosophy, it's cool. But the first tier is normally a good bit easier than the rest. And even with some of that new stuff, Final Fantasy XIV is Final Fantasy XIV. So I expect to have the first 3 fights done on the first day. Maybe the 4th fight, even if it's a little undertuned. And if not, the 4th fight easily done by the 2nd day. So expect a blitz of videos over the next, I don't know, over the next week. It's just going to be a lot of Savage. Anyway, thanks for watching. I will see all of you in the next video. Be sure to ask your questions in the comment section. Don't forget. And now I'm going to go take care of that thing as I see my phone light up. I'll see you later. Take care.